Hi everyone, my name is Jimmy Smith and welcome to episode number 64 of the Rambler Podcast, where we are passionate about sharing what makes Cathedral Prep the standard of excellence. Today we are thrilled to have Camryn Catalde on as a guest. Camryn graduated from Villa Maria Academy in 2018, where she was a captain for the 2017 state champion tennis team. She was also recognized with 2 Barber National Institute Awards during her time at Villa, the 2017 Youth Photography winner, and the 2018 honorable mention in the same category. Camryn went on to attend John Carroll University, earning her bachelor's degree in business. After graduating in 2022, Camryn stayed in Cleveland to begin her career as a seasonal employee with the Cleveland Cavaliers corporate partnerships team. She was soon promoted to the strategy and solutions team, where not only did she work on the partnerships for the Cavaliers, but for the Cleveland Monsters, Cleveland Charge, Cavs Legion, and Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. Additionally, Camryn manages the hospitality and client engagement for Cavs chairman Dan Gilbert's Arena Suite, and Camryn frequently serves as the voice of the Cavs Legion esports team, interviewing players, creating content, and hosting events such as the Cavs Legion Media Day. How fun. And just a few months ago, she was honored as one of the Front Office Sports Rising 25, one of the most prestigious awards in the sports industry. And in July, she was promoted again, this time to Manager of Global Partnership Marketing. Camryn, you only graduated in 2018. This is awesome. Welcome.
Thanks, Jimmy. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. So before we started recording, we had you over at Prep, did a walk around in the school, showed you all the new features and everything. And it was just cool to be able to show you all the stuff happening there. And it's like 2018, that was only 6 years ago, but how fast time flies.
Absolutely. Not too long ago, but a lot has changed, that's for sure. And I'm very jealous of the space that they have over there now.
Yeah, and it's just funny, being able to walk through the spaces and showing you all the things we're doing nowadays. And one of the things we both were talking about was just consolidating the resources to give the best opportunity for the students here today. So yeah, it was a lot of fun walking you over there.
Yeah, it's really amazing to see how things have evolved and all of the resources, and even looking in some of the tech rooms of the laptops and the computers that they have. It's definitely something different that I didn't have at Villa just a few years ago.
Yeah. But I mean, if you look back to, I guess this is 2013, 14, Camryn, and you're looking at schools to go to, why Villa for you was the choice that you wanted to go to school there?
Yeah. For me, it was sort of an obvious. My sister, Casey, she graduated in 2016, so she was 2 years above me, and I saw her attend Villa and attend all these different fun events. She was also on the tennis team, and for me it was the obvious choice. I also had a great group of friends. I went to Our Lady of Christian for grade school, and I felt like majority of the girls were either going to Villa and then the guys were going to Prep, so definitely wanted to follow them along, and so for me it was the obvious choice.
Yeah, and I can relate to that for sure. I went to school at Blessed Sacrament, so it was like a lot of my friends were either going to Prep or they were going to Villa and whatnot. So yeah, it was kind of just like, no brainer. That's where I'm going.
Yes. My parents joke because they're like, you just wanted to follow your friends. And I'm like, well, maybe that's the truth, because I have friends at St. George and St. Pete's and all these different schools, but it worked out in the end.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
And when you look back at your time at Villa, I mean, obviously, I'm sure there's so many memories from friends and things you experienced, but what are some of the things that really stick out to you from your time at Villa that you cherish?
Yeah. Some of the obvious ones, obviously, being Mary's Day and Sports Day. I was on the dance team for 2 years for Sports Day, and thinking about all of the hard work that we had put in for one night. And in the moment, we thought it was the biggest event of the year, and thought we were so nervous to dance in front of parents and other students. And looking back now, I think it's funny that we took it that seriously. But those are the memories that I still talk with my friends today over dinner of, remember the time that we did X, Y, and Z, or remember what you wore to Mary's Day, or the letters I still keep under my bed and have all of them from freshman year to senior year. So putting academics and sports and tennis aside, I think there are a lot of those one-off events that you guys still do today that I remember so vividly and cherish the photos and the letters and the memories from all of those outside of the classroom.
Yeah, and so many of those traditions that Villa had, traditions at Prep, we wanted to signify the marrying of the schools. To, like, we still do Mary's Day, like we mentioned. We still do Sports Day, the ring ceremony. Yeah. So a lot of those Villa traditions that really, it wasn't just about the event, but the significance and what it meant, to your point with the letters. If you went to Villa, you know what those letters mean. Yep. If you went to Prep and you're listening to this, you might be like, what letters is she talking about? Mm-hmm. But just what that impact was for you guys as classmates and what you experienced, we carry that on today now at Prep too. It's actually funny to think about now. So your senior year was 2017-2018 school year. That was the first year I worked for Prep, actually. I was at the event center, and I was actually at your sports day when you guys performed that evening. So that was my first experience of what this sports day and the dance was and all this stuff. And I remember just thinking, wow, this is actually pretty cool, the stuff they put on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We took it very seriously. We would have the 6 a.m. practices and would be making costumes and having parents drive us to different teams, and we would play little pranks on the other people competing. So we definitely took it probably more serious than we should have.
But you know what? That's one of the things that makes it great, right?
Yes. Absolutely.
And, you know, so you had these memories, these experiences at Villa and the friendships. And then when you look at kind of what Villa did for you to help prepare you to go to John Carroll and then the work you're doing now, are there things you look back on Villa that's like those things helped shape even to where you are today?
Yeah, I have 2 very distinct memories. When I decided to go to Villa and I was signing up for my classes freshman year, all my friends were signing up to be in study hall as their elective or as like one of those fill-in classes as you're taking a lot of the intro classes your starting year. So I signed up for that. I get my schedule back. I'm in photography. None of my friends have photography. I can't find a girl anywhere within the school that is taking this photography class. And I am going home and I'm like, why me? I wanted study hall. I can't believe this. I have no friends in the class. I'm so nervous. All my friends ended up being in one lunch and I wanted to be, I had to be in the other one due to these class changes. So I go into this photography class, and even the first day I remember our teacher was laying out all of these assignments and you're going to be taking photos of X, Y, and Z. And there was 3 or 4 other freshmen in the class and maybe a few upperclassmen as well. And that really, looking back at it, shaped not only my experience at Villa, but then led to my experience at John Carroll, then which led to my experience at the Cavaliers. I ended up taking photography all 4 years. I absolutely fell in love. I took AP photography my senior year, which led me to go to John Carroll with credits. So then that set me up for success once I got to John Carroll. And then I continued on with photography at John Carroll, taking, again, a lot of graphic design classes, media design, was able to take some of those electives outside of the business school because I came in with those credits and the experience from Villa.
Yeah.
And even it was funny because during our the valedictorian speech my senior year, Sarah Preshak gave the speech, and she even mentioned a joke about me making a fuss that I wasn't in study hall with everyone, and then I ended up winning like the Barber Institute Awards for photography, and went on to do graphic design and a few other things. So looking back, if whoever made my schedule, if they did not put me in that photography class, I would not be where I am today.
Right.
Which is kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah, it's just amazing looking back on how something you were like, I don't want to do this, ends up being something you're passionate about, and you do like long term. So, yeah. Oh my gosh.
Absolutely.
And then when we were just doing the tour, we walked by the esports room, and you're like, oh, are those kids doing Photoshop? The teacher's like, yeah, good eye.
Yeah.
No wonder why you know.
Yeah. I'm like, oh my gosh, they have all the nice computers and Adobe and all this stuff. So definitely different. I think I was the only one who took AP photography my senior year because it was a really niche section of the AP arts program.
Yeah.
A lot of people were doing like the painting and the ceramics, but ended up getting a good score, and then was able to take those over to John Carroll, and then also use my Photoshop experience that I had from Villa and then bring that into the graphic design classes that I took at John Carroll.
Yeah. Pretty neat how all those things ended up coming together for you.
Yes.
To be able to go to John Carroll and have those experiences from Villa that we're able to apply there. And like you mentioned, even helped with some of the credits that you were able to have already. And you studied business at John Carroll.
Yep.
What drew you to business, first of all? And then secondly, I guess, how did that experience allow you to prepare for what you're doing now in sports marketing and all the opportunities that you have now?
Yeah. So I was in the business school, the Buller College of Business at John Carroll, with a major in marketing under the business school. And going into college, I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do. I knew I didn't want to go the medical route or anything like that. So that's kind of what led me to the business school. But coming out of Villa and coming out of taking those photography and graphic design classes, I knew I wanted to do something creative.
Yeah.
At least something that I could be hands-on, integrated, strategic with. So I went into John Carroll again with the mindset of just taking some of those intro classes and seeing where it led me, and I absolutely fell in love with the business side. At that point, did not think about going into sports at all. I was thinking I'm going to go into fashion or something else, and didn't have the mindset for sports at that point. But I took a lot of the entry-level marketing classes, took the graphic design classes as my elective, created a portfolio, and kind of used that as an add-on to my career. I knew I didn't want to do solely graphic design. I didn't have the experience at that point, wasn't a graphic design major, didn't do a lot of work in Adobe Illustrator or anything like that at that point. So I wanted to keep my major pretty broad. And then going into graduation, again, I still did not know where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do, just blindly applied to a bunch of different jobs. And actually accepted a job, just like a entry-level marketing job. And then my roommate at the time, her sister was working for the Cavaliers, and heard that I had this weird split experience of having the business and the strategic marketing side, but then also having a portfolio that showcased my photography and my graphic design. And she came to me and said, did you ever think about working in sports? Because that's kind of the perfect mix that we're looking for. And I told her, I'm like, no, like, don't really have any interest. I already accepted a job, thanks for talking to me, but I don't need it.
Right.
And she ended up sending me the position, and I applied, and got the job. And for that job, had to submit my portfolio with my graphic design work, for corporate partnerships, because I would be creating, different mock-ups and decks. So again, looking back at it, if I didn't have that experience at Villa, that they taught me those entry-level skills in the photography and the awards that I won at Villa, I would not have had the experience for that position.
Yeah. Well, that's an amazing testament and story right there in that. And, Father Jabo, who's the headmaster of the school from 2000 to 2020. He's headmaster of Prep and Villa while you were there. And president was kind of more the title later on. But he used to always say the decision to go to Prep or to go to Villa isn't a 4-year decision, it's a 40-year decision.
Oh, yes.
And I see you're chuckling. I was going to say, you're very familiar with that.
Oh, yes.
And that just so, verifies exactly what he was saying is the skills you learned while you were at Villa led to a career path that you had no idea you had an interest in or that you would pursue. So that's just really funny. And it's amazing for me to hear, too, how quickly life for you changed from you were in college to now you getting this step in the door to work for the Cavaliers. I mean, a lot of us had our entry-level jobs coming out of college. You went right for the big stuff. But what was that like for you? Can you talk a little about your experience transitioning from, John Carroll to now, you're at the Cavs, which is a big deal, right?
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Even before that, I think the biggest change for me was coming from Erie, and at the time when I graduated from Villa, I only graduated with 100 plus girls, so a really small class, and I was between actually John Carroll and Penn State University as my colleges, and I just couldn't make the jump to Penn State because I thought it was going to be too large for me. My sister went there, so I saw the excitement of the football teams and everything that a large school has to offer, and I liked the shiny aspects of that. But chose John Carroll for the business school and to be a little closer to home. And when I got to John Carroll, I was extremely homesick just from the changes of coming from Erie, having a very close-knit friend group at Villa, having a great family in the small town. And when I got to Cleveland, I was kind of in shock at a bigger city and sitting in class with a larger group. And even at that time, our classes were a little smaller, just from the school size of John Carroll. But I really dealt with a lot of homesickness and challenges going there my freshman year. And I begged my parents to transfer home. I wanted to leave Cleveland. I said, no, Erie's where I want to be. I'm familiar with it. I want to move back. And this was a few months in, probably even before Christmas. And wow. I really owe a lot to my parents, because they were the ones that said, no, we think you should stick it out, stay there after Christmas, see how your first year goes. A lot of those feelings are normal, and I didn't know that at the time. I thought I just truly didn't like the school. Yeah. And didn't realize that it came down to being homesick, or not familiar with my space yet. So I think that was the first change, or real change, in my life, that I really had to sit down and think to myself, that I need to figure out if this is truly where I want to be. And talking to my parents, and they gave me the great advice to stick it out. And they joke now too, that they were like, you owe it to us. And I go back to them, I'm like, yes, I know. And I would always joke that I can't wait until school's done and I'm going to move back to Erie. And now I've been in Cleveland for 6 years, and we all joke about it now. But that was honestly, truly the first time that I was away from home, and not in my little bubble of my friends. And John Carroll really challenged me to make new friends. And I don't think there was a single other girl from Villa that went to John Carroll my year. So I was really going in fresh, and it really challenged me to meet new people, step out of my comfort zone, network, sign up for different clubs, which again led me to my experience at the Cavaliers. Obviously, right. If I didn't choose to room with who I did, I wouldn't have met different people. So I think that's really where my first learning experiences were, and then taking that mindset and using that same tactic and that same willpower, then going to the Cavaliers, of again walking into an office. And at the time, John Carroll was my COVID year, so I didn't have any in-person internships. Right. I was doing all of these remotely, so I wasn't familiar with an office space. I wasn't familiar with having in-person meetings, or even how to have some of those small talk conversations during lunch or anything like that. But really using what my parents taught me, what John Carroll taught me my freshman year, and taking that advice and putting it into my experience my first year at the Cavs. Yeah, well, it sounds like all that led to just having the opportunity, even thinking about the COVID year and how that impacted you. Yeah. It all impacted us different times, but for you in such a crucial time of your career journey, to have that happen, it's like, oh man. And shout out to mom and dad for giving you that great advice to stick it out. Being a parent myself, I think about, if my son or daughter is telling me they want to come home and, they're not liking it, what I would say. And shout out to mom and dad for being the ones to give you that push. And I'm sure they're extremely proud of you for everything you're doing now. But they were with it. They were there with you during those years that it was a little tough for you, right? Yeah. Transitioning. So that's a very cool. So yeah, just shout out mom and dad. Give them some love on here. So I could imagine there's gonna be some people listening to the podcast to this episode, and they're excited to hear about your journey and the things you've done. And there might be others who they might have an interest in doing something like you're doing. Obviously, the aura of the Cleveland Cavaliers can be attractive, but then also the day-to-day of what you're doing in sports marketing and corporate partnerships and whatnot. Can you talk to us a little about your role? You've worked on the partnerships, not just for the Cavs, but other teams and organizations as well. But what does a typical day look like for you in your position now? Yeah. So I've had a few different roles since I've been there, all within the corporate partnerships department, and is why I accepted the positions, even starting as a seasonal. It's because every day-to-day looks different, and I knew I didn't want to sit at a desk all day and do the same thing over and over. That's just not my personality. I like to challenge myself. I like to dive into different ventures. And so when I accepted the position, I knew that's exactly what I wanted to do. But within corporate partnerships, not only do we work for the Cleveland Cavaliers, like you mentioned earlier, we also have the Cleveland Monsters, the Cleveland Charge, and Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, which hosts all of our concerts, family shows, comedian shows, all of that. So not only do I get to work on the basketball side of things, but also I get to dive into the hockey side of the Cleveland Monsters in the AHL, which is super high performing right now. We're the league under the Columbus Blue Jackets. So we see a lot of our players moving up and down there. And then I also get to work on the Cleveland Charge and Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. So every day looks different. There's never a day that's the same. When I first started, I worked across all of our partnerships. So kind of being a 360 view of what a partnership at the Cavaliers looks like. So whether we're going after a new partner, I would sit in and think of new ideas and a strategy of how their partnership could be successful, depending on what their initiatives are and their values and their objectives. Really thinking of a holistic package that would make sense for the Cavaliers. Yeah. So not only thinking about slapping logos onto signage, but thinking about how to make a true impact for those partners. And so that was kind of my role when I was on the strategy and solutions team, which I did for 2 years, was thinking of those ideas, but then also once the partnership came on and we completed it, showing a proof of performance. So making sure that our partners saw success in year-over-year growth, and great hospitality aspects and all of that. So really showing how our partnerships can be successful, and if there were times that they might have not performed as best as they could, but rethinking those partnerships so everyone has an amazing experience at the Cavs.
Yeah. A lot of creativity on your end, which I'm sure all the graphic design and photography stuff, even though you weren't necessarily applying that to that particular instance, that creativity gene that working for you. And also, I would imagine, I'm sure there's been a lot of high pressure moments for you too, where when you're making these proof of performances for your partners and you're hoping they're going to turn out positive, but sometimes the truth is it wasn't, but here's a pivot to say, well, we could do better for you. Sometimes those can be very, high pressure situations as well.
Yes, absolutely. And in my role that I sit in today, I manage a few of our partnerships, and especially for those, I work as the middleman between our partners and then our entire team. So a lot of high pressure situations there that being that I'm the face in some sorts of the companies, they look at me as the face of the Cavaliers in some sense, even though I'm not a basketball player in any means, but making sure that we're doing the best for them and always thinking of new initiatives and thinking of how we can improve the partnership, even if we have some partners that have been with us for 20 plus years. The world of sports marketing is constantly changing and constantly evolving, and we need to look at those partnerships and grow with them and grow with their business. Same with our basketball. We're always thinking of new creative best ideas within the field house. So thinking how we can apply those again back to our partner to really make a amazing experience for our partners, and at the end of the day it's for our fans. So everything that I do in my day-to-day work, I think having the mindset of our fans in the back of my head is really what drives me and keeps the excitement going from the day-to-day.
Well, for someone who maybe didn't want to go into sports, to now hearing how passionate you talk about what you do, it's actually pretty cool to see, how much just passion is a word that you have towards what you're doing, and how much excitement I'm sure your day-to-day is in working with your partnerships for the fans, for the organization. I'm sure a lot of moving parts, but it sounds like you're really enjoying it, which is cool to hear. And, a kudos to you. We mentioned kind of in the bio, the recognition you just recently had. I'm sure you were just so thrilled to see that for the Front Office Sports, naming for the Rising 25. Can you talk to us about what the Rising 25 is, and then maybe what that meant to you to see your name listed as being a part of that?
Yeah. So Front Office Sports, every year, I believe they've run this award for a few years now, recognize 25 individuals under 25 as the most prestigious award for sports. And I actually didn't even know that I was going to be nominated for this. This is a national award, and the Cavaliers submitted my name and some of the accomplishments that I had throughout my time at the Cavs. So I didn't even know that I was going to be entered into this or what it was or anything like that. And so when I found out that I was receiving this award, I was completely in shock, and couldn't even think about how I could be, I shouldn't say deserving, but how I came to this award at such a young age, winning at 23 years old. And we would joke too that there were still a few years left for me to win it at 25. So I think truly being in shock that looking back at my accomplishments and making sure that not only I recognize those, but also grow upon those, and being in the class with 24 other individuals, reading their bios and where they've come from. We in my class, we have people from NASCAR and people who have started their own business ventures with colleges and different NBA teams and NHL teams and MLB teams, and all of these young individuals that I get to sit with and learn from being a part of this group and being a part of this award. I'm truly grateful for, and truly grateful for my leaders and peers and coworkers at the Cavaliers that they recognized the hard work that I put in, but also are eager to grow within the organization and to watch me grow. So I'm extremely grateful, and it truly means a lot, especially because I didn't even know that this award was a thing or was possible. So
yeah. And you brought up a really good point about the opportunity for you to even network with your class that's going in with you as part of this recognition, to see the different backgrounds of people who are accomplishing this award. And maybe there's ways you can cross over and learn from these people with what they're doing. I mean, just so many different opportunities there with networking. That's a great point to bring up. But yeah, I thought that was really cool to see that was an honor that you received. And, again, kudos to the Cavs leadership team for doing a good job of promoting you to this front office sports to get you the deserving recognition for that, to care enough to put your name out there.
Absolutely.
So for maybe young professionals who are listening to this podcast episode, and they hear about you at your age and what you're doing, and they're thinking, and we might even have some high school and college students that are listening to this episode, and they aspire to do great things. What advice do you have for people who are younger and looking to make their mark in their field or their college, wherever they might be?
Yeah. Even bouncing back off of the front office award and talking about all of the people I've been able to meet, I think the one thing that I didn't know going into the sports world is how small it really is. A lot of these sports teams are connected, and what I've seen is that when someone enters into the sports world, whether it's through a college athletic department, whether it's through a high school athletic department, through the MLB, the NBA, whatever it might be, people love working in sports and they stick with it. So they often then bounce from team to team. So I really think that the sports world is a small, tight-knit group. And the advice that I give to young professionals, whether they're in college or even in high school and are looking to go into the sports world, is to network. And I think that's probably the obvious answer for a lot of jobs, but it's truly impactful on the sports side because we are all so connected. And meeting one person from one organization in 2-3 years down the line, they could be somewhere else. And I think that's something I wish I would have done more in high school and in college, was just meeting people, being curious, talking to people about their experience, what they did like, what they didn't like. I didn't even know corporate partners were a thing coming out of college even. I knew the obvious of the accounting and the marketing, and you'll have the graphic design team within sports and you'll have the ticket sales team within sports, but I think just being curious of what's out there, and then networking, whether it's on LinkedIn or family and friends. I always, whether even today, reach out to different alum from John Carroll, from Prep, from Villa, just to make those connections of, hey, we just want to talk for 30 minutes today, but 2-3 years down the line, I could need a favor from you. You could need a favor for me.
Yeah.
I could be applying to a job that you used to have, things like that. And that was the one thing when I went to the Cavaliers, I really took time to make sure that I networked and had a good relationship with different sports teams around me, even in the Cleveland area with the Guardians and the Browns being around there. So I definitely recommend to college students and to high schoolers to create a LinkedIn, even if you think it's too early, and just friend some of these people, because even when I see now a resume that comes to my desk and they're from Erie, or they're from John Carroll, or they went to Villa or Prep, my first question when I hop on the interview or the call is, tell me about your experience. Or Erie even is so small too that I think networking within Erie is phenomenal as well. So I definitely recommend starting at an early age of just creating, whether it's a resume or LinkedIn, and not adding anything to it, but just to get your name out there and to be familiar with different jobs and different people that you can friend or connect with. Absolutely.
And to your point, networking might sound like an obvious answer for people who are listening to this right now, and they might think, okay, yeah, networking, but I would encourage anybody, actually go do it. And what that could look like is simply creating a LinkedIn, getting out there. It could also be you have an area that you want to study or you want to go pursue as a career. Search who is some of the more successful people in the field, even if you live in Erie right now, and just shoot them an email or shoot them a message and ask if you can buy them coffee or take them to lunch at a young age like that. For somebody who's older to see the aspirations, they're going to most likely take the time to talk with you, even if it's on a phone call, to give you some advice, to talk to you about those things. But then again, it's not even so much about what you learn in that time with them. It's about you showing the ambition that, yes, this is something you want to pursue, and putting yourself out there, to your point. You never know where that stuff is going to come back around and be able to benefit you.
Yes.
And one thing that I think that I'm impressed with the type of work you do is how it's constantly evolving and constantly changing. You were talking about the performance stuff and how year to year you might be pivoting and changing what you would do for a partner. I read and listen to various business books, but it always seems like between marketing and corporate relations stuff, it's just always constantly evolving. How do you manage for yourself in your role? And this could apply to any profession who has a job they're doing that's always changing. How do you stay up to current trends and see what's going to be happening a year or 2 years from now with what you're doing?
Yeah, this is definitely something in both of the roles that I have with the Cavaliers on the strategy and solutions team, and now on the partnership marketing side. That's super important to us, because as for any sports team, I think they want to have the best, newest, greatest initiatives, not even for the partners, but for the building itself. And I think for myself personally is really doing a lot of research, again, on even whether it's LinkedIn and connecting with different folks around the sports world, to making sure that I'm staying up to speed with what other teams are doing, not even within the NBA space, but with some of those other leagues, or just what are some of the colleges are doing, or high schools, and seeing how they're creating success within their buildings. But really doing research on that. But then also on the partnership side are doing research on how our companies that we work with, how they're evolving as well.
Yeah.
Being on the partnership side of things, I think diving into some of the larger partners like Sherwin-Williams and Cleveland Cliffs and Rocket Mortgage, and they have some of these amazing technology tools and AI initiatives nowadays, and within the digital space, but bouncing off of their ideas and learning from them as well outside of the sports lens is extremely important. So for myself personally, especially when I was in the strategy solutions role and I was creating some of these packages or creating some of these deals for our team to go out and sell, it was super important for me to do extensive research of what was out there and different vendors that we could use as well. to create these amazing experiences and to be the best. And I think the Cavaliers organization does an amazing job of putting in resources and making sure that we're up to trends. I know I've been to a ton of Cavs games, obviously, but seeing fans come into our building, first-time fans for sure, and seeing their faces compared to if they went to a different arena or facility, whatever it may be, and just seeing the magnitude of what we do during a game day and our game day experience. And kudos to our entire team for always thinking of how we can improve and staying up to trend with other sports teams and making sure that we're constantly evolving.
Yeah. It's been a few years since I've been to a Cavs game, but it was so much fun. We had a great time. Part of that is because having young kids, it's tough to go do anything, honestly. But it was so much fun. And to your point, the fan experience, I was blown away because I didn't grow up going to a lot of basketball games. But I went with some friends a handful of times, and we had so much fun going to Cavs games. And I was blown away, to your point, as a first-time guest coming to the arena. And then the next time, same thing. It was another wow moment of the experience that is put out over by the Cavs organization for that experience.
And I think working in it day to day, we're kind of numb to some of these outstanding aspects within a game day or outstanding features that the arena has or the players and things like that. But I think what it really comes down to is the fans that aren't integrated into it day to day, or myself coming from Erie, and I've been to a ton of Otters games and Bayhawks games when I was younger, but even seeing those as a young kid going into the Erie Insurance Arena at the first time and just seeing the experience that they put on, I think thinking for my day-to-day, always having that again in the back of my head of what it comes down to is making it an amazing experience for our fans, and they're the ones that are paying to come see us, and we're appreciative of that.
Yeah. Attitude of gratitude is what they say. And everything that you're talking about too, as I'm taking it in, it sounds like everything you approach is from a growth mindset. So I heard this term years ago. There was a book that was called Growth Mindset, and it's just looking at whatever opportunities you can to capitalize on, to continue to expand what you're doing, not being stuck in what we did is what we always do, especially in your industry even more so. It's an emphasis to continue to challenge yourself, right, to grow and to do better. And you talked a lot about the time and the resources that are put behind that, which is awesome. And again, kind of going back to the topic of just that high-pressure environment, right? So earlier we were kind of talking about it more from the standpoint of working with the corporate partners and that side. And I think it also applies to your day-to-day, right? The high pressure of continuing to evolve and adapt and be better. And I'm just kind of curious, how do you manage that between high-pressure situations? Are there, some secrets that you do, and whatnot to manage it? But honestly, what keeps you motivated and focused on moving forward despite that feeling of just high-pressure situations?
Yeah, that's definitely something with sports. And I think when people think or ask me how I like working in sports, and they see the flashiness of maybe they do just come to a game and they see those outstanding experiences, and we always say working in sports is a sexy job, quote unquote, that it's flashy and exciting. And when you think of the Cavaliers, you think of basketball, and you think of the Monsters, you think of hockey, but you don't really see the back end work that's put into all of those experiences. And for myself, I've working in our ownership suite for the past 2 years. I've had the opportunity to attend every single Cavs game. So for the past 2 years, I haven't missed a Cavs game, which I'm pretty proud of.
That's really cool.
But what people don't see on the back end is all the hard work and the time and the sacrifices that you have to put into it. Especially with this season falling the day before, the day of a holiday, birthdays. True. But I think for me, what really keeps me motivated are my friends and family. They're amazing in the sense of understanding that I have to miss different events, miss holidays and things like that. But really, what it comes down to is, again, just having that amazing experience within the arena. And I think what other people don't realize is especially at Rockland Mortgage Fieldhouse, we have events coming through the building 365 days a year.
Right.
So because we have so many different sports teams and so many different concerts and shows coming in, people joke with us that, oh, do you have your summers off? Or what do you do in the summer? There's nothing going on. There's no basketball being played. And I always tell them, like, no, we have things constantly throughout the building. So I think just taking time to relax and take time off, but then also enjoy the game day. At the end of the day, everything that we do, again, and I sound like a broken record, but everything I do are for the fans.
Yeah.
So taking a moment to actually step back and enjoy the game, attend the Monsters games with your family, attend the concerts with your friends. It's really what motivates me, because I see all the hard work that I put in and I see everything that's being accomplished. And I think that's really what excites me about the day-to-day and makes up for some of those big moments that I might miss on the friends and family side. But
Sure.
It really comes down to work-life balance and making sure that you're enjoying what you do within your profession. I think with sports, we have the amazing opportunity that we get access to tickets and to concerts and shows and being so close to it every day, but also allowing our friends and family to capitalize that and to enjoy that as well.
Yeah, it sounds like there's the high pressure moments, but there's also the fun parts of the job, right? And I'm sure you enjoy all aspects of it, in case any of your bosses are listening. But
yes, love it all.
but to your point, the fun aspect of it too, right? Being able to go to the games, enjoy it, do all that stuff. Like, you haven't missed a game in 2 years. That's pretty cool, right? So yeah, just being in the thick of it and doing all the stuff, 365 is part of it. From your vantage point at this, your experiences so far, and talking about maybe specific skills or qualities that you think are, kind of essential to being successful in the industry that you're in, what would you say that young professionals or people who want to be in a position like yours should really start to hone in on? Because you do a lot of different things. So what sort of skills would you recommend people start to try to learn at an age?
Yeah. The biggest one for myself, working in sports and being so young, and going back to John Carroll as well, is confidence. I know that's not necessarily a skill you might learn in the classroom, but for me, learning how to be confident of walking into a meeting. Sports is usually seen as a male-dominant profession, so myself being a young female in the industry, I really had to learn to be confident in myself and to accept those awards and to accept those recognitions, because that is, again, the growth and the pathway that will lead me to success. And I reflect on my time at Villa and remember having a class where we would read, I think the book was Catcher in the Rye, and I think anyone from Villa that's listening will remember this class, but you would read The Catcher in the Rye, and you would go up in front of the class, and the teacher would ask you a question, and that was your essay for the class, and you had to give a 5 to 10 minute speech, I believe, on the question.
Yeah.
And at the time, everyone was so nervous, and we couldn't believe that we were going to have to speak in front of each other, and we had to think on the spot and answer these questions, and were you prepared enough? But looking back at it, that was the first time that I really had to be confident in myself, calm the nerves, and public speak in front of my classmates.
Yeah.
And that teacher taught me a lot of just being confident in yourself and knowing that you can do it. And I remember she would take off points if you said like or and little things like that.
Of course.
And I'm sure now everyone's going to listen and hear every time I say or like throughout the rest of this. But
good thing you said it later in the episode, not earlier. Yeah.
But that's really what was the start for me. And after that class, I would always have that in the back of my head of, wow, just even being, I think the class was probably our sophomore or junior year, but having that experience at such an early age and having the skill set of public speaking and talking in front of others, and thinking on the spot, being confident was really a skill set and something that I'm grateful for at Villa. And I think even then, taking that to John Carroll and the Cavaliers is having the confidence to be able to present. A lot of my day now, I'm presenting in front of clients and presenting in front of others and peers to showcase proof of performance or to pitch them different ideas. And looking back, I think that's one of the main things that I value from my time at Villa and really use still today, literally every single day throughout my career, being able to talk in front of others. And I think that's something that goes a long way, especially being a young graduate and going to into your first job, is just being able to go into a meeting and being confident that you're there, and looking people in the eye and giving a firm handshake and being able to speak up if you have some of those ideas. Because I think that's really what led me to a lot of my success at the Cavaliers, is being able to speak up and talking about different initiatives and, hey, I have this idea and I think we should do this, or maybe this is better for a partner. And if I kept those in and didn't have the confidence in me to speak about those meetings, they would have never known that I had those ideas and would be stuck in the positions that I previously had. So I really think that confidence is if not the most important skill set that I recommend for people to learn, to reflect on, to challenge themselves, step out of their comfort zone, meet new people, again, network, and doing all those things.
That was a great answer. Excuse me. That was a great answer, because confidence is so important. Mm-hmm. And when I had this question for you and I went to ask it, it could have went, well, you really need to learn the basics of marketing.
Mm-hmm.
You could have done this and that. But I think to encompass really all those things will come as a result mm-hmm. of you doing the right things and learning. But confidence being the crux of it all, to being the thing that if you can be somebody who's confident, the world is yours. Like, go mm-hmm. out there and be able to be somebody that makes the phone call, does the pitch, does the plan, does all the things that you were just talking about. You couldn't have said it any better. And I'm really glad that you hit on confidence, because mm-hmm. I've seen through my career now more and more, I used to have not a ton of confidence coming out of college, would think, well, I read certain books, I'll learn confidence mm-hmm. in this area. Or if I listen to this podcast, I'll learn confidence mm-hmm. in this area. And then I started to realize, no, the more and more I put myself out there, stretch my comfort zone like you just said, that's where the moments are that you become bulletproof, right? Mm-hmm. You start to be like, I've done a ton of corporate partnership proof of performance reviews. Like, I've done this, been there, done that. When I started the podcast, it was kind of nervous when I first started, mm-hmm. sitting in front of somebody, realize I'm putting it out there. Now this thing is a breeze because I've done so many of them. Mm-hmm. So to your point, I just want to say that was, great thing to hit on. And for our listeners, just realize that the value of really just, honing in on confidence mm-hmm. as being the staple there. Mm-hmm. You got time for a couple more questions?
Yes.
All right, cool. Well, I guess I got a couple more for you here. I guess, what are your goals for the future? There's been so much that we've talked about on things that you've done and, the flowers have been given, so to speak, on what you've been able to accomplish. And, are there particular areas that in the industry you're excited about exploring further? I guess, what does the future hold for Camryn?
Yeah. So even though I've done a few different roles with the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Monsters, I think just diving into those roles that I'm not familiar with, sales being one of them. When I started, I was kind of in the back end of the work of being the behind the scenes person for some of the sales team members or for some of the partnership marketing folks, and then moving to the partnership marketing team and working as the representatives for a lot of those accounts and renewing those and doing things like that. But something, again, this is something that I'll learn through confidence, but I definitely want to tap into more of the sales side of things. That's something that I have absolutely no experience with, not familiar with at all. And throughout my day-to-day, I like to put myself in uncomfortable situations. Again, going back to the confidence, So I think my goals for the future, whether it's at the Cavaliers or anything moving forward with my life, is making myself uncomfortable, which I think to some people sounds probably a little crazy and insane, but that's something that I really challenged myself with, even taking the roles within the Cavaliers, taking the sports marketing position, things like that, taking the leap of faith to do some of the media for our 2K league, the Cavs Legion, and looking at a lot of those opportunities that come down the line and changing the mindset of, oftentimes I'll say, no, I don't have time for that, or no, it doesn't fit in my schedule, or I don't have the experience, or anything like that. But I think my goal is really to make myself uncomfortable, which will hopefully lead to more experiences, and meeting more people down the line. So I know that's not, I don't have a goal right now. I want to be the CMO or the CEO or some tangible goals like that. But I think having some of those smaller things that will lead me to different job positions and leadership opportunities is really what comes down to making myself uncomfortable and testing out different waters and testing out different positions.
Yeah, and I think it'd be very naive of somebody to just say, set a goal, like I'm going to be CEO, and without having a plan or everything you just talked about in terms of your goals for your future, for your career. Those are the things that, one day might lead to that opportunity. But right now it's what's the day-to-day, what can I push myself to do as a daily goal of stretching my comfort zone, doing things like that are going to lead to the opportunities. And obviously now at this point in your career, you're seeing that result into promotions, recognition, and it's like, I would just encourage you to keep doing what you're doing. You know, that's awesome. And there's some great stuff happening for you in your career. And with this mindset, I'm sure one day you might be the CEO running the Cavs. So I got a bonus question for you. It's the last one. I ask all the alumni who come on as a guest. If you could go back in time to June of 2018 at your graduation for Villa, and knowing what you know now, speaking to your classmates at your graduation, what would you say to them at that time?
I would say cherish every day, especially looking at my time at John Carroll and being so nervous to leave Villa. I wished a lot of those days away. I was hoping that the time would pass. I can't wait until I'm home for Christmas break and I can see my friends, or I can't wait until I'm doing this or attending this party, or I can't wait until I have this game, or things like that. But looking back, the time really does fly, and it's crazy to be sitting here. And I feel like just yesterday I was sitting with my classmates at graduation. And so I think really what I would tell everyone is to cherish every single day, appreciate the people that you have, appreciate the friends. I am still so incredibly close with my classmates. I have an amazing group of friends from both prep and Villa that I talk to every single day. And so appreciating everyone, spending the time with them, taking the time to come back to Erie or wherever your hometown is, but really not wishing those days away, because it does go by so fast. And I think a lot of those days I was nervous of, what job am I going to get, or what school am I going to attend, or am I going to pass this exam, or I have so much homework tonight, I can't wait until this is over. But really looking back at it, that's what shaped me as the person I am today, and the people and the opportunities that I have. So I would leave it at that, is just appreciating the life that you're in the space that you're in today, and not always looking forward to something more.
And that can be tough, especially in our world today. With social media and the ability to just pick up your phone and start to plan and do all the things. It's like, let's slow down a little bit. Let's just enjoy the moment. Yes, we all want to get to that next promotion. We all want to move on in this relationship or do this and that. There's so many different things that we want to have happen that you miss out on what's going on right in front of you. So I think that's phenomenal advice. And being a dad, I have to say, I am guilty of that sometimes. Like, is it bedtime yet on today? And any parent knows what I'm talking about. And it's like, and then at night, I'll feel guilty and be like, man, I shouldn't have felt that way. You know, but God's so good, you get the next day to do it over again.
Yes, I always use the saying, today is the first day of the rest of your life. So if there's something that you want to do, or that you've been thinking about, today is the first day to do it, and every day is a new day, and should be appreciative of it.
The proverbial draw a line in the sand.
Mm-hmm.
Start fresh. Today's a new day.
Yes.
Well, I think anybody who's listening to this podcast episode can definitely feel that energy and excitement to really make today a new day, right, if they're listening to this. And I really appreciate this conversation with you, Camryn. It's been so much fun to really dive into what you do, your mindset about the way you approach your work. It's no surprise to me after talking with you as to why you are where you are, and it will be no surprise in 10 years where I see what you're doing and whatnot. But no, just kudos to you and all your accomplishments. And again, I mean, you drove up from Cleveland today to be with us for this, so thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jimmy, for having me.
You're welcome. Thanks.